Sonnet 130 parodies the most famous and often over-the-top Petrarchan sonnets, in which poets describe their partners in highly exaggerated and unrealistic ways. Now, although this poem contains similar themes as found in traditional sonnets such as female beauty, love, and admiration, Shakespeare does not idealize his beloved. He describes her in ways which are realistic and therefore more accurate and real. So, this is a Shakespearean or Elizabethan sonnet. It consists of three quatrains, 4 lines each, and a rhyming couplet right at the end, which is just 2 lines. And that rhyming couplet, it serves as a final argument to drive home the speaker's point. Okay, in summary, Shakespeare uses 8 anti-compliments, in other words, negative comparisons, to describe the uniqueness and the beauty of his beloved. Okay, line 1, a mistress. This was more of a general reference meaning my love or my darling, but in today's world, doesn't really mean that. You would think of a mistress as someone who is engaged with a cheating husband. Now, in this simile, the mistress' eyes are being compared to the sun. And when Shakespeare was writing the sonnet, it was common to compare a lover's eyes to the sun and sunlight. And the sun creates the image of something bright and shiny. Line 2. So if we take a good look at line 2, coral. Coral is a hard, stony substance, typically forming large reefs in warm seas, and it has a very bright red or pink color. And this is compared to her lips. And her lips are not as red as coral, and there's nothing special about the color of her lips. So, line 2, all about her lips. Line 3, dun. The word dun, D-U-N. This is a dull grayish or brown color. And at the time, it was a huge compliment to have your skin compared to snow. I guess the whiter, the brighter, the more attractive, and also the more dull as well, that dull, pale look. Remember, guys, this was a very long time ago, 1600s or so. Line 4, we have this metaphor throughout line 4. And this metaphor compares her hair to black wires. And it is not soft and flowing, but rather hard and spiky. She has frizzy black hair. And this W alliteration, wires and wires, a bit of repetition there as well, emphasizes that she is not perfect. And the main reason of this poem is to challenge the traditional way used to describe women in poetry. So this was a very groundbreaking poem, challenging the ideals of the time. So, in line 1, all about her eyes being compared to that of the sun, really nice simile. Her lips being compared to coral, so lips here being red. Her skin is very dull, very white, pale almost. And we have this alliteration here in W and W. Lines 5 to 6 I would like to look at as a whole. In these lines, a woman's beauty and complexion were usually compared to roses. And as you guys know, roses, that's a very romantic comparison. And Shakespeare has seen beautiful roses that are a mixture of red and white. However, his mistress's cheeks don't remind him of them at all, and he sees no such color in his mistress' cheeks. And her cheeks are very pale. And this emphasizes that his mistress is not the perfect female model, and she's just an ordinary person. Now, in lines 7 and 8, in the conventional love poem, the poet would say that her breath, or, well, his or her lover. In the conventional love poem, the poet would say that her breath was like perfume. But the speaker says that some perfumes are far more fragrant than the smell of her breath. And this is quite deliberately shocking and offensive. It's a bit of a burn, it's a bit of a roast, to emphasize that she's just an ordinary person. She's human. And her breath simply has a natural smell. And this idea of her being an ordinary person and not a goddess, it's further explained when we get to lines 11 and 12, but that is to come. In lines 9 and 10, the speaker makes the first positive comment about his mistress. So we have a bit of a change here. This change is called a volta. So whenever we have a change, it usually occurs in line 9. So let me just put it here. So whenever we have a change, so line 9, we call this a volta. It's usually indicated with a but or some kind of conjunction or just a change of the poem. He starts by giving her a genuine compliment, expressing his love for listening to her talk. However, he undermines this compliment by acknowledging that music sounds better than her voice. And this shows the speaker does not use exaggerated compliments, but he's honest in expressing his love and admiration. Now, lines 11 and 12 that we previously alluded to, this was part of a traditional love poem to declare and believe that your lover, typically a female, because this was a very patriarchal society, mostly men held literary posts, so love poems were typically about women, and women were described as goddesses and had no human frailties or imperfections. He admits that he had never seen a goddess move, and this woman, she is not a goddess. She doesn't float or glide like one when she walks. She actually treads quite heavily on the ground. And she's a very real person who's just an average human being. And he loves her despite the fact that she doesn't even meet idealistic conventions of beauty in his society. And by rejecting the comparison to a goddess, he actually normalizes his beloved. I mean, in today's society, you see all this glitz and glam on social media, you know, the Kim Kardashians of the world making a lot of changes to their body, and they kind of set the beauty standards. But as we know, that's probably not the best measure, not the best level of comparison. I mean, if you have a bit of money, you can make yourself look more attractive. Lines 13 and 14. So, and now we have a massive change of everything. So we have and a massive change in everything. Yet by heaven, this is quite important, he denies that she possesses any heavenly qualities, and yet he swears by heaven that his love is sincere. And the speaker thinks that his mistress is as wonderful and unique, rare as any woman who was ever misrepresented by an exaggerated comparison. She is just as beautiful as any woman who is praised with false comparisons, and he wants to show that his true love is not superficial and goes beyond physical beauty. And the couplet drives home the speaker's main point, that unlike other people who write sonnets, he doesn't need flowery terms or fancy comparisons. He can just tell his mistress plainly and simply that he loves her for who she is. Okay, so the major themes that we have. So these are the major themes that I want to look at. So this idea of escapism, but escape from idealism. Escapism from idealism. Next, femininity. And this sonnet addresses the problem of stereotyping female beauty by setting unreachable standards for it. So unrealistic beauty standards. And the last theme, beauty and love. Throughout the sonnet, the speaker contrasts his lover's physical appearance unfavorably to various beautiful things, such as the sun, snow, roses, and a goddess, implying that she is not as beautiful as those things. Despite this, the speaker concludes that his love for her is actually genuine and valuable, and that she is still beautiful in her own and unique way. Now, through this, Shakespeare implies that true love and beauty should not be measured by conventional comparisons, but rather should be appreciated for its authenticity and imperfections. Finally, the speaker expresses his love for his beloved. He describes his values of love, and he states that real love is not based on outward appearances and idealized looks, but is rather based on connection, human emotion, and nothing superficial. Real love doesn't need false tributes, and any woman can be beautiful.